Welcome to day 69 of the 300 Movie Challenge. Today we would have watched the highest grossing film of February 2000, but that movie was Scream 3. So instead we watched Star Wars Attack of the Clones?
I don't like sand.
No,
The
I
meme.
hate
no,
dust.
Oh my god.
no.
If
Uh,
anyone gets where I hate dust is from, you get a cookie.
I'm pretty sure that's probably a lot of people.
Maybe.
I don't know. Um,
Maybe. Maybe.
uh,
Okay. Uh,
so, what do you
I
think about the best writing in a movie you've ever seen?
oh my, there were so many times during like the romance scenes where I actually just started hysterically laughing.
Yeah.
I can't believe they got married at the end of the movie.
I thought they got married in the next movie, not this one.
Nope.
Wait, on. So are you saying that throughout the entire animated series he was married?
Yep.
What?
Oh my god.
That was like the first thing that went through my mind. I was like, but.
Scandalous.
Oh my god.
Wait, why is that scandalous?
I just, I guess the thing is that I guess I always perceived Padme to be much older for some reason.
No.
Like even before I watched the first prequel, I thought she was 10 years older than him. So I thought that she was a legitimate like cradle snatcher. So that's why I kind of thought that it was a little bit scandalous. But I always forget that in the previous movie he was 9 and she was supposed to be 14, even though she looks like she's 18. And in this
Yeah.
movie, she doesn't look like she's aged a day.
Yeah, she at least looks closer to the age that she's supposed to be, which is 24, but
Yeah, but
you can believe that if someone said she's 24, you would be like, okay, fine, right?
yeah.
You wouldn't be like, no. So, yeah.
Oh,
But
God.
the reason I found it astonishing was because I was like, but that means that he went through the whole of the Clone Wars thing, hiding like the fact that he got married and stuff.
Yep.
Does Padme even appear in the Clone Wars?
No, she
Actually,
does, and
in
she's
the-
actually, like, a pretty helpful person who actually does things both in terms of actual assignments and also diplomatic stuff as a senator.
So what you're
Oh.
saying is like the
She's
show
actually a
wrote her
good character.
better.
Yeah, no, the show does, like,
The show
everything
wrote her
better.
better.
So the people that directed the show should have directed these movies.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
Oh, of course.
Probably. And then we would have gotten Ahsoka too.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, then we could have gotten an animation and stuff.
yeah, so just for people who don't know, and actually you guys might not know this either, there's actually 2 animated Clone Wars shows. The first one is 2D animated and was actually produced in like 2003, and was
Oh, I
like,
remember when they aired it.
yeah, it was aired on TV like actually between when this movie came out and when Revenge of the Sith came out. And in fact, and so that whole thing actually, it's like really short. Like all of the episodes together is like 2 hours or something.
Yeah, because each episode's like 5 to 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, so
I think.
it's
Yeah.
kind of, you can kind of watch it like another movie, and it's nothing super great. I think some people are like, oh, it's so great. But it's, I mean, again, there's not much to it. But if you take it as a movie, like, you know, it works decently well, and there is some interesting plot things in it. In fact, actually, the kind of climax of the show leads directly into the beginning of Revenge of the Sith.
Ooh.
It's like exactly. So it's kind of interesting how they handle that. The CGI show was made after Revenge of the Sith, and I think was first aired in 2008.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they started after Revenge of the Sith. They kind of were, I don't remember how the exact pre-production started or whatever, but the idea was, you know, let's kind of redo this, while not like replacing the other show, but while still
Like expanding certain things.
yeah,
or
well,
something?
expanding a lot, and
Yeah.
again with the idea of let's take the elements of the prequels and actually like make them good. So,
Mhm.
um, and I think because originally the Clone Wars, the first one, the 2D one, was kind of split into two halves. The
Mhm.
first half ends with Anakin like graduating to become like a Jedi Knight. Okay.
Mm.
And so
Okay.
then the idea is all of the CGI show happens, and then the second part that leads into Revenge of the Sith happens from the
Oh,
2D
that's
show.
that's interesting.
That was how they originally made it. The thing is now,
Okay.
the 2D animated show is not canon anymore.
Oh.
So
Oh, that's so
it
sad.
is
Wait,
kind of.
why though?
I don't really know why, because as far as I know, there isn't anything that contradicts it. That said, there was a so Clone Wars the show, the CGI one, ran 6 seasons. It was scheduled to go actually 8 seasons originally, but it was canceled. Those last 2 seasons, kind of the main plots for them were kind of molded into a couple comics, a book, and something else, I think. And
Oh my
basically,
God.
the plot
Gosh.
points that would have been in those last 2 seasons are considered canon, even if they haven't like been completely made yet.
Oh, that's
And the
weird.
actual end of that show was actually something that was supposed to simultaneously happen with the end of Revenge of the Sith.
What?
Oh.
Yeah. So I can't really talk about that because you haven't seen that yet. So it is interesting to
Right.
see how this works. But again, it's just kind of so frustrating because, okay, at least from my perspective, the biggest problems with the prequel trilogy, and this movie is where it's most relevant, is Anakin and Padme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do not
Yeah.
work as characters.
No.
Or with each other.
Or with
for that
each
matter.
other, yes.
No.
I mean, we were talking about this. The characters that had like the biggest like interaction with each other and worked were C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
fine.
Bro TP.
Um,
Bro TP.
Obi-Wan's fine in this.
Yeah.
He's not super interesting, but he works. But yeah, just Anakin and Padme just don't work. And again, that's the thing that like the show does so well is Anakin actually works, Padme actually works. You know, and it's just there's so many other things that's just like and because I feel okay. So I've said before, I think this is the worst one.
Yeah.
And not only is the writing like especially painful, but
The
it's
dialogue, yes.
yeah, but it's such because the thing with the Phantom Menace, one of the problems with it was that the plot felt like it didn't matter. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This plot matters,
Yeah.
but it doesn't work. Right? So
Very
it's like more
confusing.
disappointing in a sense, right?
Yeah, like it had its interesting points, but we all like Tara and I we felt very confused as to like what was
yeah,
going on per
Yeah.
se.
Yeah.
Like the whole clone plot is a legitimately interesting plot and like confusion of like, wait a minute, why did some rando like commission clones for the Republic? How is that? Huh? You know, like that's legitimately interesting mystery, but they don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
really resolve it.
They don't talk about it. They don't like
No.
say why it happened. The aliens were just like, oh yeah, your master he like commissioned this, and like Obi-Wan's just like, what are you talking about? I didn't
Yeah,
hear about
basically.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And I don't want to talk a ton about it because I don't remember if they go into this in Revenge of the Sith or not. But I will say this: you might have skipped this. When Obi-Wan is talking with Jango Fett on Kamino, Jango Fett says that he was contacted by someone who goes by Lord Tyrannus.
oh wait, is that
That was the
Dooku?
title that Darth Sidious used to address Dooku at the end of the movie.
okay? So
Oh.
oh,
So that's a
Oh,
very
that's why he's
subtle
standing with
thing
it.
that you might have missed.
Mhm.
So that's you can kind of think of what that implies. And I will
Yeah.
say there is again that said that the Jedi who originally commissioned the Clone Army was this guy Sifo Dyas.
yes.
As far as I am aware, he is never brought up again.
Oh. Really?
Great.
Yeah. At least in the movies. He is brought up in one of the story arcs in the Clone Wars show, and it kind of goes into his deal. And again, I don't really want to spoil it because it leads into some other stuff.
Yeah, you can tell us after Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, so it's, again, some elements are there, but yeah, it's very weird because I really feel like the prequels, and especially this movie, and the next one too, if someone just like came back to these and tried to just tell the same story but tell it better, you know, they could make like legitimately good movies.
Yeah.
Because the elements are there. I think the overall story is actually legitimately really interesting. It's just it's not executed properly. Not executed well at all.
That, and they show like portions that, like, I know in the previous movie this was a humongous thing where they showed, in the whole interesting scheme of things, they chose a point that wasn't actually very interesting.
Yeah.
And then in this movie, despite the very interesting thing happening, they would switch to other things that
don't matter.
No, like Padme and Anakin.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, for example, the thing with Anakin and his mom, right?
Yeah.
The whole point of that, of course, was to show, oh, he has some like dark tendencies in him or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the problem is that, like, compare this Anakin in this movie to Anakin in The Phantom Menace. Do they seem connected at all?
No.
It seems like completely different people, and I get it.
Because baby Anakin is like such a mama's boy, and he's like so sweet.
Yeah, you don't get like any clarification as to why he became like this either.
Right, and again, I get it. 10 years is a long time. People change, but it's like, but couldn't you have shown us that change?
Yeah.
It's just,
and not just make him like an emotionless robot.
No, an edgelord.
Yeah, and it's like, that's why I really think The Phantom Menace, it should have been a movie where Anakin was like already a Jedi and he was a teenager, because then it would have been closer, and then you could actually start showing some of these, you know, maybe very subtle tendencies that then get, you know, embellished more in maybe some big event, which, you know, is mom dying in this or something, and then, you know, keep building. Whereas here, it just seems to kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And
you don't really get much of an explanation as to why. And I think if they really wanted to show him younger and when he was first joining and stuff, they could have done that as flashbacks as opposed to making it like a whole movie thing instead.
Yeah, it could have been like, Obi-Wan's just telling a story about, oh yeah, you used to be like such a little brat when you were a child.
Yeah.
Insert flashback here.
Valen, when you were talking about like showing like small tendencies and going on, I didn't watch a lot of this series, but I did watch a few episodes of which. Did either of you watch Adventure Time by chance? Okay.
No, not really.
It's kind of been in the back of my head to maybe sometime look at, but I haven't.
I only watched, I think, at most like 10 episodes or something, and it was a long time ago, but I remember a friend that did follow it very closely and everything. She told me how they did the Ice King, which is the, I guess, villain of the show, even though he's kind of funny and stupid in some points. But in any case, they kind of showed how his transformation into a villain happened because he was a totally normal person, but when they flashed back to like how he became like this, it like gradually showed him like becoming the Ice King and everything, of which every time you saw him, he would have grown a little bit more blue, and he would have gotten a little bit more of his beard and everything until he finally became the Ice King. And you kind of understand how he became, like, he went from point A to point B. As opposed to showing him as a normal person, and then all of a sudden he's blue and has a beard.
Right, because in that way you can kind of see his, like, humanity and how it shifts.
Yeah,
basically. And it makes you connect more with the character, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you don't, like, hate him. You're kind of more like, I wish this didn't happen to you.
Right.
Yeah.
And that just
I
really
don't
doesn't
know
work
that much about the show or anything, but when you mentioned that, I immediately just thought of that transformation, and I thought they did it really well with that and everything.
Yeah, and again, the Clone Wars show, they actually kind of do this, too. For example, there's a scene Let's see, how do I describe this? Obi-Wan and Anakin are basically trying to protect this political person who's going to Coruscant to, like, do a thing.
Okay.
I'm being vague just because, not because I don't know what it is, just because you don't need to know. Although this person is actually, like, Obi-Wan's kind of girlfriend. Long story, but anyway. But she's, like, her whole deal is that she's, like, a super pacifist, right?
Okay.
And so there's a guy on the ship who's, like, trying to kill her, right? So this guy basically holds her hostage, and Obi-Wan goes to confront him, right? But he's saying that, like, he himself, like, wasn't armed, but he had, like, you know, a thing that would, like, if he pressed it, would, like, blow up the ship or something, right? So he's holding her and being like, "Oh, I'm not armed. Are you going to strike me down while I'm armed and, like, you know, break your Jedi code and also, you know, piss off your girlfriend who, like, is a pacifist or whatever?" So he's, like, kind of messing with his head, right? And then Anakin comes out of nowhere and just kills the guy. And they're like, what? And Anakin's like, "What? He was going to blow up the ship. Like, duh." You know what I mean? Like, you see how that's kind of like a subtle difference?
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's like that, they do stuff like that, and it's like, damn it, that's actually clever. And it's like, but here it's just, I don't like sand, and it's just, why?
I don't like sand.
And also, this movie, like, I don't know, it felt way longer than I remembered it being.
I think it's just all the padding from, like, long. It's just the padding from the romance, I think.
Because those scenes just dragged on, and you would be like, okay, let's get back to Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
So, I'm so happy C-3PO came back.
Yeah, I know. I was just like, oh my god, you have, like, coverings over your circuits.
He's not naked anymore.
And the parts with him and R2-D2 basically was, like, the only high points, like, the really high points of the movie.
Yeah, there's that, and then I do think the whole battle, like, on Geonosis with the Jedi and the clones and the droids is fairly impressive.
Yeah.
It's not a Darth Maul fight, but it's still pretty. It's just kind of nice in terms of just volume, right? Just
it was also nice.
I do understand your concern as to what the heck happened to Darth Maul after that, because they just didn't mention him again.
Exactly. It's like, what's the point of him? Such a wasted character.
I know, yeah, and they fixed that too, didn't they?
Yeah. There's some really interesting things they do with him, and how they basically, because with whole, remember Obi-Wan was the one who, like, took him out, right?
Yeah.
And so in the show, they basically turn him into a guy whose, like, sole mission is to, like, destroy Obi-Wan. So. And to the point of, like, not just killing him, but, like, mentally torturing him and stuff. It's, like, kind of insane. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Vengeful.
So it's just, I don't know. That show's so good. Like, seriously, if anyone has any slight interest for it, just watch it. I will say this, for anyone who's thinking about it, there's two cautionary things, I would say. One is that season 1 is okay. It's not that great. It definitely gets better. And so if you're watching season 1, you're like, stick with it for at least a little bit more. The other issue is that for some reason, a good amount of the episodes are not in chronological order.
Oh, right.
So the first episode, timeline-wise, is season 2, episode 16.
Oh my god.
So I honestly might even just recommend watching it in chronological order, which is, like, kind of a pain, but if you just look up, like, on the wiki, you can find the list.
You could probably link it in the description, too.
Well, again, it's really easy to find, if you're interested. So that can help, just because I mean, I get it, like, they're like, oh, well, they had a story, and then they wanted to have, like, a prequel to that story later. Like, I get it, but at the same time, it can be kind of hard to follow, just to remember, like, wait, what's happening here? Why is this related or whatever? When, like, you know, season 3, episode 3 is a prologue to the very first episode. You know what I mean? It's like, how are you supposed to remember that? You know what I mean? So, and it does get kind of confusing because, like, the last episode of season 1 actually, like, takes place in the middle of, like, season 3.
Oh,
my
So
god.
and they handle it that way too. So there's like all these characters you've never seen before, but the characters in the show act like they know each other, and you're just like, wait, who the fuck are you, right? So it's very odd. But so if anything, I would recommend watching it in chronological order. Once you get past like the midpoint of season 3, then everything's in order, basically. So then it's not so bad. But yeah, basically the first like 2.5 seasons are all over the place. So it's kind of
yikes.
annoying, but it's definitely worth it. Honestly, it has some fantastic moments. I will honestly say this: there is a moment in the show that is not only my favorite Star Wars moment, period, it might be my favorite single moment in any fictional media, period.
Oh,
So,
I think
like,
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, so it's when it's good, it's unbelievably good. So watch that and not this movie.
really? This is coming from someone a very big Star Wars fan, so definitely take his advice.
Again,
If
it's,
anything, just watch The Last Battle. That's it.
yeah, I don't know. Again, the problem is you can't really, like, if you really want to know this story, you can't really skip this one.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So that's kind of the annoying part. 'Cause you can, honestly, you can kind of skip Phantom Menace. It's not very important.
Yeah.
But you really can't skip this one. And so that's kind
You
of the
have to
whole
watch
issue.
this one and Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, so it's kind of just like again, I mean, I don't know, he'll just, it's not terrible, it's just kind of eh.
If you ignore like the romance scenes, it's better.
Yeah,
I'm
if
sure
you
there's edited versions.
yeah, if you cut a lot of the shitty romance out, it's at least like okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, again, there's nothing that's really in this movie that's like great.
Yeah.
But
I would say overall it's pretty okay if you just take out the really awkward, stilted scenes.
yeah, so it's it I don't know. There you go.
It's watchable.
Yeah, it's definitely better than a good amount of movies we have seen. But
Okay, if we're winding down, I have to tell my truth story.
oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is not actually the story I originally planned to tell, but after this movie, I had to change it because the other one did not relate to this at all, and at least this has like one small element that might be related.
Okay.
So, when my parents were like married, like when I was younger, like I was like 2, and my parents got me a babysitter. They took out my great uncle and his wife to a restaurant, and my great uncle is a very like devout Buddhist, so he doesn't really like to eat meat, but sometimes he does anyway. But the whole like concept of killing is not something he likes. So they went to this Chinese restaurant, and does anyone know what drunken shrimp is?
You've told me the story,
I don't
so
remember.
I know the answer to this.
Okay, so drunken shrimp is basically this dish where you have the shrimp and then you pour like alcohol in it, and then it kind of like twitches because it kind of reactivates the muscles a little bit. So my father was like, isn't this kind of funny? So he was like showing my great uncle this, and he was just horrified. So he ended up ordering like a fried rice dish, and he didn't eat the shrimp at all.
Okay.
And that's my fish-related story.
They're not even fish though.
Shrimp.
It's okay.
It's a different like phylum
You guys
or
said
something.
Wait, let
Seafood
me
is
see if
okay.
I have one. Wait.
No, we're supposed to all save it, so it's one per thing.
It's
Do you
okay.
have a fish one? Fish one?
I have to tell the only other fish story I have.
Wait,
Okay.
there's the. I'm trying to think if I know any of your other fish stories.
I'll just tell the one that I know right now, so that we don't like use up too much time.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Okay. So, when I was younger, I used to have fish, like one fish at a time, and I've had 3 fish in my entire life. Each one of those fish was accidentally killed by 3 women three generations of women in my family. The first fish I did not feed enough, so that one died because I was like 7. The second fish, my mom forgot to put the drops in the bowl after she cleaned the tank. The third fish, my mom and I went on vacation, and my grandma was supposed to take care of the fish. When we came back, there was no fish because she accidentally lost it down the drain.
Oh my god.
So, I don't know how this relates to the movie, but it's the only fish story I have right now. So, you're gonna have to deal with it.
Okay. Anyway. I think it's time to move on.
Yeah.
To a movie that, well, considering the actor that's in the next movie, we might have even more fantastic romantic dialogue.
Oh, joy.
Oh, God. Jesus. Well. And this one won't have aliens in it. Hope. Well, actually, who knows?
A romance between a human and an alien. I think I'll actually be horrified.
I mean, City of Angels was close enough.
Yeah.
True that.
Anyway,
True that.
enough for now.
Bye.